Welcome to The Uniformer. Insights into and interviews with the people and companies that drive the markets for uniforms, image apparel, public safety, and workwear.
Hello, welcome to The Uniformer. I'm Rick Levine, Executive Director here at the NAUMD and a regular contributor to The Pulse, here with two of our regular contributors and my uniform nerd friends, Aileen Out and Leslie Watt McCardle. Aileen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Aileen Out. I'm from the Netherlands. I am a columnist for the NAUMD, for the Pulse. And I also have my own Dutch website, prettybusiness.nl and prettybusinessworld.com, which is my website for English articles about workwear.
Leslie.
Very nice. I'm Leslie McCardle. I also kind of grew up in the uniform industry. I'm currently a director at Fabian Group of merchandising and product planning design. And I'm a columnist as well occasionally at the NAUMD.
Well, we've been regularly every week, all three of us. I think heading into 2026, everyone, it's going to be a little more haphazard between the three of us, but you'll still be able to read everything that we're writing about and thinking about at naumd.com/news. The format of this podcast is that each of us brings two items to talk about. We haven't told each other what the two items are, and then we just kind of round robin and talk about them and act like the uniform nerds and workwear nerds that we are, I guess. So who's gonna go first? 1, 2, 3.
But can I ask a question? Leslie, you're not going to write anymore? Or not so
No,
much?
I'm going to yes, I'll probably do 1 or 2 per month.
Ah, you're very busy. I know that.
No, everyone's busy. No. It's actually my happy place when I write.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's for me too. That's why I'm a writer.
Yeah. Well, Aileen, you're doing it full time. Leslie's got this, full-time job that totally gets in the way of her.
I know, my true happiness.
Yeah, crazy.
Fabian's amazing.
Start writing.
Yeah, Fabian's a great company. I've always admired
Absolutely
Fabian, and they're doing more and more these days. So that's amazing. So Leslie, what do you got for us? You go first.
All right. So the first article I actually pulled from The Pulse. The Pulse is a weekly newsletter that the NAUMD sends out weekly online. And this one kind of just struck me, and it was way down the bottom too. It wasn't like a main focus one. So it was When Politics and Uniforms Collide. It was written by a Sarah Dobson, December 17th, 2026. And so it was like at the bottom, like
2025.
That's what I meant. So she did. Yeah. I did not time travel.
You are already living in the future,
this
girl.
Article. This is 2025. That's funny. So what I loved about it is sort of it's the bridge between, when you read the article, it's the bridge between like what is right and what is wrong. When you're part of a corporation, not a corporation, you work for a company that you need to wear a uniform. Think airline, flight attendants, UPS drivers, the list goes on. FedEx, everything, postal service, when you have to wear a uniform that represents where you work and what you do. And what is the balance between self, like your individuality, but also from a political standpoint? From a standpoint, if, one example that they gave, which I thought was interesting, was from Air Canada. One of the flight attendants happened to have had a pin that was in the shape of Israel with Palestinian colors. So a passenger, made a stink. But it crosses the border, like say if you wear a rainbow pin or whatnot, like where is the balance? I mean, I believe in self-expression, but I do believe that there is a fine line when you wear uniforms, but certain things shouldn't be so political and whatnot. So I guess I'm looking for what your thoughts are. When is the line crossed? And when should you just, fall in line and wear a uniform? I'm not saying always give in, but there's a time and place. That's my philosophy. So
Well,
it's an interesting subject,
Mhm.
and everyone has a valid point. So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I've seen this and I've dived into this, but a lot of airlines, for this example, do have pins, but the airline approves the pins before you use them. So
Mhm.
what the airline does in a lot of cases, and that's the same with, for example, Starbucks, they now recently updated their new uniform rules. So I don't know if the rules are for now, but in the past they had this rule that you can wear pins, but the pins are a part of the company. So let's say the company wants to show that they are pride members, or how do you call it?
Mhm.
Yeah, pride.
It's important. It's the same for breast cancer, when they have this pink uniforms or pink pins that they wear. So I think that is a good way, let's say, to meet in the middle. So you, as someone who works there, doesn't need to wear it, but if you want to, you can wear it. But in this case, it was a violation of the rules, because they needed to ask the company first, because there are other pins, but they are approved. So I
Got
think
it.
I understand what you're saying, but I think if you look into the airline industry, this was just a one mistake, because
Oh,
this is not approved
absolutely.
in most airlines.
It
Yeah,
was
it
just
is
the one
really
example that
interesting.
they gave.
I mean, it goes beyond uniforms, of course, right? Because the idea is that if you are a representative of this company, right, what are you allowed to say and what are you allowed not to say? And that goes everywhere. Look at how many, I mean, people have gotten fired for posting something on social media and then they get
I
fired
know
from
it
the
does.
job,
It's interesting.
even though it's unrelated to their job, what they're saying online. But because they're now seen as a racist, or they're seen as
Yeah.
something that is distasteful to the culture that is that is present, and then it affects their job. And so now then what's also interesting is to see, at least here in the US, this major pushback against being offended, and that's and the whole like pushback by our current political environment against diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And there's all of this pushback that it feels to me like that's like the other side of it, of them saying, no, you should just be allowed to say whatever the hell you want to say whenever you want to say it, and that's okay. But is that the spirit of the uniform? The uniform is supposed to present a exact personality, an exact
It's a brand.
brand. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's supposed to present an exact brand. And if you muddy the brand with personal expression, what does that mean?
It's such a toss up.
Well, I think every brand is, if you call it, let's say, branding, political things are always a part of branding. Always. Because even, for example, when you're talking about the rainbow pin,
Mhm.
if you choose not to show anything, it's also a political thing.
Sure,
In this world, I think it is, because there are so many things, and it can be the small details, like what are you investing the money of the company, to which other companies or countries. That's also a political thing. But also, if you are having a uniform in certain colors, are you wearing the colors that are, let's say, connected to your country, or other colors? Where do they stand for? I think politics is always a part of it, but it's not always a part of it in a way that you can just see it right away. That's what I think. But maybe I'm thinking too far, because I studied politics here in the Netherlands. So maybe just, I don't know.
No, those are
No.
all good points. Then,
Nice,
and yeah, very interesting, and challenging. right? For companies
Exactly.
to decide how to handle that. And what do subtle shifts mean, right? So I'm thinking about how we debate sometimes the benefits of school uniforms for children. Oh, well, we're going to eliminate the disparity between someone
Yeah.
having fancy clothes, someone having not fancy clothes,
Yep.
but then the kids find ways to accessorize. The kids find ways to
There's always ways.
adjust the clothing slightly so that it's within the boundary of the rules. But now I'm identifying myself this way because I tuck the shirt in this specific way versus another way. I'm just making up that example. I don't know what kids are actually doing, but that's an interesting nuance of what you're talking about too, Leslie, of where's individual versus collective.
I think just inherently in us as human beings, we want to express who we are and how we feel, but is there a time and place to do it? So,
all right.
I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I mean, obviously, if there's guidelines, you need to follow the guidelines. You were hired, you need to follow the guidelines, but they need to be very specific to people up front so that you don't find a person in that situation.
So that you don't find.
Well, meaning that you don't put
that's
what I meant. You don't put your employee in a situation where they're, not going to succeed and they'll,
Very
But it's the
interesting.
same with when it comes to social media and showing up in your uniform on pictures or videos. I've dived into this, and from what I've seen, you need to put this in the rules of the company that people cannot do that. It's not that you can fire someone because you don't like it, that they're wearing a uniform in, let's say, a TikTok video or something.
Yep.
So I think that the companies nowadays cannot just say, oh, that is not accepted. No, if you think that it's not good for your company, you should put it in the rules, in the book.
Absolutely.
That's such an interesting topic. I think we need to explore that one at the NAUMD a little more about, how companies write uniform policies in a turbulent political world, right?
100%. And it's impactful too for the different companies that they attend as well. The different
Very
groups.
interesting. Very interesting. So I'm going to go next because it so directly dovetails in with what Leslie just
we
talked
always do this, don't we? We all three of us kind of figure it out.
We find threads, right? We find threads. But my topic is mainstream media noticing uniforms and workwear, right? So there were two recent examples that really surprised me. I was like, oh, wow. One I knew that was coming because they had called me for background, but it's the Wall Street Journal just came out with a lengthy video journalist piece called How Uniforms Came to Define the American Worker. And
that sounds great.
It's on their homepage of the Wall Street Journal. It's a great video. They interviewed extensively our friend and NAUMD supporter, Heather Aku, who is a professor at the University of Indiana and wrote a book on workwear, a history textbook on workwear. They interviewed her extensively and they featured different things in the video. And one of the things, so I did a write-up about the video and it was in last week's Pulse or the week before, is that one of the most striking observations in the video is that while U.S. prides itself on individualism, uniforms tell a different story, right? They represent a collective purpose. They are decisions made by organizations about how work should feel, look, and function, right? So, and they quietly shape millions of daily experiences, often without being noticed at all. And this is mainstream media that is making this video and talking about, and I love they interview first person, like here's a doorman talking about their uniform, here's a construction worker talking about their uniform, right? So they went around and just did these random interviews. then they feature one uniform company out of New York City that's been doing it for decades, and and it's just really interesting. And the other one from Public, but I won't dive as further into it, is a publication called The Fast Company, which wrote a piece 2 weeks ago called "The Year of the Tactical Vest," and they said,
yes, it was in the thing.
It was in the Pulse also, and they talk about how certain apparel defines certain eras, right? So there's the what do they call it? I don't know. Now I don't have the references handy, but casual apparel or athleisure wear, or right, like certain periods, like, oh God, that was such an athleisure period of time. And now it feels like, and especially in the political environment the US is in, whenever you turn on the news, there's somebody in a tactical vest, right? In body.
Yeah, I think too many, but that's my
right. So almost half the article, like so much. So it's just, and that it's also become mainstream. Like there are just consumer products now with tactical, vests, and it's just like out there as a thing you can wear now. So, but the dovetailing of mainstream media noticing all of this in combo with what you're saying of, well, what are we allowing? How do we set policy? Is very, it's interesting.
It really is.
I think that this.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think this. I see this happening also more often. That traditional media is writing about it. I think, to be honest, it is because workwear, and especially the type of workwear, you see with Dickies and Carhartt, is really a big trend, and it is for many years. Of course, the rappers start with it, making it more mainstream, but there are coming more and more labels collaborating with other labels, making workwear more popular.
Yes.
And it's like, for me, I am at the point where if someone launches a new workwear line, it looks all the same. It looks all like Carhartt. But I think that is one of the reasons that mainstream media is talking about this, because you see it so many times. It's such a big trend. It's not even workwear anymore. It's workwear that is being worn as a fashion item. And I think it's a way to dive into the history of workwear that is interesting, of course, for the bigger audience, and that is why I think mainstream media is checking on this, is writing or making videos, because where does it comes from?
In thinking about this topic ahead of time, Aileen, I also thought about you because you tend to focus a lot on airlines, and airlines are written up about in mainstream media way more than any other uniform.
They totally are
of company.
exactly.
Right? You don't hear about the police uniforms as much, and you don't hear about
delivery uniforms,
the overalls that assembly line workers are wearing at auto plants. It's like, but an airline makes any shift, and mainstream media notices it.
Yeah, but I think that's the same reason, because if mainstream media is now making a video or more content about workwear and where does it come from, it's the same with the airlines. It is something that people just see. People chose to go for a certain airline or want to fly with a certain airline and look at their uniforms, and it's a big part of the branding of the airline. So it's also, let's say, something that just consumers see so much, and that is all. And besides that, the part design is playing a way bigger role than when it comes to, let's say, fire equipment or police officers. The design is really a big thing. So I think that is one of the reasons.
That's such a good point, because it's like, we said another way, it's because we spend time with them. Like we're sitting in this seat for 2-hour flight, right?
Minimum.
And or a 12-hour flight.
Yes.
we're watching these people in uniforms. That's all there is to do, is you're just watching them walking up and down the aisle, and you're right.
Yeah.
And
But
whereas you
what-
don't want to spend time with firefighters and police officers, because then something
It's never a good situation. It's not a good situation.
it's a bad situation. Yeah, and that is, of course, that plays a big role. But it's also, now I forgot what I wanted to say.
something about how the public sees things.
Oh, what I want to say. Oh, yeah, now I know it. Airline industry in general is they all the companies are very good when it comes to press releases.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they're very good with glamorous pictures, nice videos, even when they just change the dress code into gender neutral or whatever is happening.
Yeah.
They make a whole press release. They are showing the new accessories, and I think that is always my complaint from my side, is that when there is a shift in a uniform or a dress code or whatsoever, a lot of companies don't share it. So it just happens. And sometimes in worst cases, people just know it because people who are working there are just talking about it on the internet. And then you hear, oh, so there's a new uniform? Okay, but there are so many airlines, and we, of course, United Airlines and Alaska Airlines, that are the big airlines, British Airlines, where we heard about. But there are also some airlines who don't share this information.
Yeah.
So because
Yeah.
I'm making those videos, I know that there are a lot of airlines who are like, okay, we have a new uniform, but don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We're not
Right.
releasing any press. So it's, of course, always a choice. And if you are really proud of your uniform, you want to show it, just go ahead. But I think with police, for example, I see so many news about police officers and uniforms. But when you look at those uniforms, let's be honest, how many times do you really think, oh, wow?
Right. They're not doing radical changes. Yes.
Not for the
Right.
bigger audience, for the people who are just walking down the streets. For us, maybe, but we are workwear nerds.
All right.
We noticed.
All right, nerd. Miss Out, what do you got for us?
Yeah. So I have my big book here with notes. We have talked about my fountain pen obsession. The Canadian Army. That's a really interesting story when it comes to their uniform, because in 2022, they announced that they are going from, let's say, gender-specific uniforms to gender-neutral.
Oh.
During that time, it was very important for the Army because there were new rules against discrimination and racism, and they thought non-binary people, everyone should be included. So what we're going to do is a gender-neutral dress code, but also uniform. They did this in 2022. Because before that time, there were uniforms for male and female, but it wasn't, let's say, besides the whole inclusion thing, not a big hit. It wasn't that good, the uniforms. But now, let's say, I think it was a couple of days ago, the news went out. they're now are going back.
Oh,
to
they
the
are. Oh.
Specific uniforms, And so I found out that there are women in the Army for 30 years now. 30 years. And they said for 30 years, they still haven't found a good uniform for women. So they did have a female fit in the past, but it wasn't just that good. And they thought, oh, well, we just do gender neutral. But now they had so many complaints. And for the last 5 years, so since 2019 until 2024, they are testing, making body scans, the 3D body scans with the camera.
Yes, we do.
Of a lot of people, but also a lot of women, because they were complaining. And now it's all going back. And that is interesting because you see this also, this whole gender neutral trend going back to gender specific. Is that the correct English?
That's fine. Yeah, that works.
Specific uniforms. You also see this happening, for example, with the British police. And we had this topic last year, and I think at first I said crushed testicles because that was the headline in a lot of news articles. Sorry for the people who are listening.
Oh, doesn't bother me.
But that was one of the problems because they said, oh, now the men are also complaining
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's not good. But in this case, for the Canadian Army, it was the women who said, well, this doesn't work.
This isn't
And
working.
they
Yeah,
take
that is
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because of it, we just talked about the influence of politics, of course, the
Right.
whole situation in the world and attention also plays a big part. And you see this with more countries who are making specific uniforms for women in
Yeah.
army because they're feeling that also women are needed. Yeah, they're always needed, but now in the
That's
army
so
too.
interesting that came back. The pendulum is swinging the other way. You know, I never understood. Maybe Leslie, you can help me with this. I never understood how we were going to, or how we are trying to accomplish gender neutral uniform fits. How is that? How are the designers even
It's a
conceiving,
budget. It's a budget.
even
From
conceiving
a
of a
fit,
garment that works?
from a fit standpoint, from my experience, speaking for myself, your base, your model is always male for gender neutral. And then you adjust.
Yeah.
You adjust how, the based on sizing, how you grade. So I can understand why females, like if you identify as a female, and I personally do, that fit would not be flattering. So it's almost like you need a third fit. And I'm not suggesting for everything, but I understand why it's harder for women to go into that versus a man. And, and however you identify non-binary, whatnot, would be okay. So I get why women are pushing for their own fit, because we're made differently, and it isn't flattering when you get into that. So that's how they base the gender neutral, unless there's some great new way. That's how I've always seen it.
Well, I've dived into this whole gender neutral trend, and it all started with one designer who made a fashion collection for women, and he called it gender neutral. But during that time, the trend was that women were very skinny and very thin and had no curves. So his models were that type of women, and he called it gender neutral. But it was just made for women who had no curves and who are flat. So
yes,
and
I
now
get
you
it.
say, yeah, it is male. Yeah, of course, it is made for. That's also what they said now in the Canadian Army, that they call it gender neutral, but they acknowledge, it was a male fit.
Oh, absolutely. It's just in the grading that they change it.
Yeah. So the whole idea has always been no curves. Maybe
It's
not
just like
even
a different option. I view it as however you identify is fine, but if you only have dresses for women, that just doesn't cut it, right? You need options and stuff like that. There's ways to work around that situation.
And I think in a lot of cases, it's a budget thing that they cover up with saying we want to be inclusive. It's just easy.
Wait, how is it a budget thing? It's cheaper to do a gender neutral, you mean? Like,
well, you don't have a bigger size scale. You're not doing men and women.
Yeah.
You're just doing this. So it's the same.
right.
So it's technically,
It's the same thing what's happening now within Suriname police, or I wrote about. Now they have gender neutral uniform, and they just say it out loud. We have it because it's cheaper, and we want to cut the spending on government, money. And that sounds good for, let's say, the bigger audience, but it's not for the people who want to wear it.
Who have to wear it.
So
yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Getting into juicy ones.
Juicy.
Oh, my next one's going to be boring.
All right, lay it on us.
Come
then.
on.
Well, it's not that it's boring. It's not boring.
Okay.
And I didn't mean it that it was boring, because now the people can get mad at me. So it's basically how we've been talking about how the marketplace is changing, right? It's much more retail influenced in future designs. It's all about comfort, stretch, and performance fabrics in our industry. Well, what does that do when you're a laundry and things like that? Because traditionally in the rental laundry business, it was all about function and cleaning. What was the best way to clean it? In, out, clean. And it had to be functional for the workers. Absolutely. So now is more and more, and especially every single major laundry, at least in the United States, and you can let us know, Aileen, how it is in Europe, has a direct sale portion. But the big point here is in the laundry business, there's more and more requests for like different types of fabrics and in different ways to care. And there are ways to introduce that in that business. It's a little bit more costly and the routine is changed. But it's happening more and more. And it's going to be interesting to watch what changes happen in that industry from a aesthetic standpoint in the fabrication, like the old traditional 65-35 or 100% poly. What happens when you do bring in all, different types of fabrications to compete? And I don't want to say you compete, but rental or direct, it depends on the situation. So I found it interesting because it's gonna see what happens with the assortment. If there are a few pieces that come into play that are more I hate fashion focused, retail focused. So that was my article. Oh, and I found that in the American Laundries.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I don't know very much about this, but is it also a factor that the customer of the laundry is slowly shifting, right? So with less manufacturing here in the US over the past 3 decades, right? Where are they able to service, right? So can they have more hospitality accounts that make up the difference between the heavy soil, right? Didn't it used to be that they had to keep the fabrics a certain way because they were so dirty, like the garments would get so dirty that you needed an industrial laundry machine in order to clean it, but now can you launder I'm trying to think of an example that's probably Walmart, but it's probably not that's probably not laundered.
Exactly. And I guess like even when you think of like casinos or hotels, the front of the house versus the back of the house, it still is all about comfort and things like how do you integrate into both worlds for the people that are in high soil industries. It's come a long way. I can speak to that. And there's nothing, the product is amazing and whatnot, but it's interesting to see how we continually evolve with new fabrications. What's going to happen?
Well, from what I've known, and I don't know if that happens also in America, but if there is a new uniform that is, let's say, for law enforcement, so a uniform that is going to be worn by a lot of people in public, there's certain company that cleans it, and the company who makes the uniform goes to the company who cleans it and explains the way it needed to be treated.
Oh, okay.
That's not happening there in America.
Well, usually the laundries that are cleaning it created it.
Sometimes, okay.
Because you're describing, Aileen, more of a private service. So I'm, as a police officer, I now quote unquote own that uniform, right? I don't drop it in a bin and then pick up a fresh one on the way into work. Whereas that's more what the industrial laundry that Leslie's talking about is. I go to work and I just grab a fresh overall, right? And I wear that for the week. And then at the end of the week, I just drop it in the dirty clothes bin at work.
Yeah.
And grab a fresh one.
Yeah. So that is what happens from what I've known is that if it comes to these kind of uniforms that you don't wash at home, but
Yeah.
the company washes it for you.
Yeah.
They just because I've seen also discussion about ambulance clothes here in the Netherlands. When
Yeah.
they rolled out a new uniform, I dived very deep into this process during that time. When they made this new uniform, there were some complaints about the uniform and that some parts of it, and I don't know, some parts that you put on it, let's say a logo or branding or reflective stripes, that they're going off the fabric. And then there was a discussion, what is the problem? Is it the company who made it, or is it the company who cleaned it? So, and then there's of course a discussion about that, but I know that before they produced it, they also had some conversation with the company who is doing the laundry.
Yeah.
So I know that they had some companies around the country, and every company that is cleaning the uniforms, they had a special, let's say, training, so that they know how to clean it. So if everyone cleans it in the same way, it stays all good. That was the idea. But I don't know at the moment how it's going, but that was the idea.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah. So that's why. That was mine.
Nice. So I'm going to put my NAUMD hat on for my second entry this week or month. We just announced that the 2026 NAUMD awards are open, and each year, as a network, we invite independent judges to review submissions by our members. I think last year we had about 130 submissions for awards, and we gave out about, I'll use a round number of 40 awards. And if you go to naumd.com/awards, we've got the past 5 years worth of all the winners with photos and descriptions of the programs. And it's really a great way to honor the best that our industry has to offer. And we do it in 3 ways. We do the best public safety department, which would be like law enforcement, or we just mentioned, first responders, ambulance, EMS, firefighters, military, anything that involves public safety world. And then we do a category called the Image of the Year. And these are registered trademarks. So it's Best Dressed Public Safety Department Award, big R or little r. And then the Image of the Year, little r. And then we do, and the Image of the Year is all the corporate stuff, is transportation, is delivery service.
Airline. It can be
Airlines, yes.
Airlines are huge winners a lot of times.
Yeah.
If there's a new rollout of an airline, it's
yeah,
pretty
I think it
guaranteed.
was the United one that recently won. And interestingly, United, that program ended up generating 2 awards, because the company that did what you just mentioned, Aileen, the body scanning, the 3D scanning to help 50,000 employees fit into their new uniform, they had an innovative approach that they worked with United and the manufacturer. So they did a 3-way relationship in order to move around the planet and get 50,000 people measured. So that was, so they won an innovation award for that. And then also the third one is the innovation award, where, like Leslie saying, well, who's going to come out with the next generation of fabrics that are going to work in the laundry world as well as they're working
As direct,
in the fast food service, quick service world, where younger people want stretch and to be comfortable and not be scratchy, and it's like so we've opened that. Companies should look at how to submit. You have to be a member to submit, and so that's exciting. And then our 2026 convention is underway. We already have over 50 companies that are exhibiting in a myriad of categories. If you need a factory, come talk to the factories that are exhibiting. If you need ready-made, blanks for all kinds of programs, right? We've got people that make blazers. We've got people that make firefighting, uniforms. We've got law enforcement. We've got hospitality. Everything is represented there, and all of the accessories and decoration options are represented there. And it's really a great environment to collect all of these people in one place for our niche within the niche. And I'm working on booking speakers, right? I want people to talk about AI, how we're using new technology. Oh, one panel that I'm organizing, and I've got 3 panelists for it already, relates to what we were just talking about also, in a sense, because it's going to be a discussion of what's the balance nowadays between traditional law enforcement looks and clothing and new and modern, and and where's the loyalty, right? The chief of police, who's been doing it for 40 years, wants the tradition, right? And the people who have only been doing it for 5 years, right, they want performance, they want the comfort, they want to know that if they're going to go hop a fence that they're in basically athletic clothing that will handle their needs. So I'm organizing a panel surrounding that. We'll have both dealer, distributor, and manufacturer voices on the panel to talk about what they're seeing out there. I don't know. So I just wanted to give some plugs to start the new year here in January to NAUMD activities. And I don't know what discussion, or if you two have any questions for me about what's going on, but that was my second offering today.
That's a great one. It's a great event. It's also just even the weekly pulse, because as you notice, we talk a lot about a lot of the articles we pull from there. And obviously the 3 of us always contribute as well. So that's my add-on.
As a benefit for the network. Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Good plug.
Good plug. Okay. Aileen, what's your last
You're going to
one?
wrap us up.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about my previous topic about the Canadian Army and inclusion. And then my second topic is also about inclusion, but let's say a different kind of, because I dived deep into the topic of face masks and having a beard this last month.
Face masks and having a
Yeah,
beard.
so think about face mask in the, let's say, hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are there working, because until now the research has shown that it is not safe if a man wears a face mask with a beard.
Interesting.
But
it isn't. I didn't know that.
No, it's not. But during COVID, that changed. And that is because at that time there was so much need of doctors that, let's say, the rules were a little bit more flexible. So you have now, and I have to see if this is the correct English way, but you have this religion, and the people who are having that is called Sikh, S-E-K-H. Sikh?
Oh, Sikh. Yes, Sikh.
Sikh?
We say it's
Sikh,
Sikh, like it's an E. I don't know why, but
okay.
Right?
Yeah, I know the Dutch one, but now they had a problem in Australia because there was a guy who was studying to work in a hospital, but at the moment when he needed to wear his mask, he said before trying on his mask, I don't shave my beard, but during COVID, because they needed so much doctors, the people who had the Sikh religion said, if we just put on underneath the mask a band, a hair, let's say a kind of hair band, and we put it on our face, from our neck to our face, it can be safe. That is what they thought. Yeah. So, and now this guy said, well, I'm using that method. But then the hospitals say, no, you cannot, because it's not safe. And it's very interesting because let's say you have this whole thing of, let's say, being inclusive. So if you have a religion, you want to be inclusive, let's say for wearing a hijab, or you can wear your beard if you want to because of religion. But on the other side, you also need to be safe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very, and they have it about the FFP2 and FFP3 masks. That is what I'm talking about. So the medical masks. But it's interesting because in times when you have COVID, they said, okay, you can wear this mask with this method because we need doctors. But now they say you cannot because most hospitals in the world say that this method is not allowed because it's not safe.
So there's no device that, well, this band you're saying, this band
Mm-hmm.
that becomes the
The
requirement?
the problem is if you have a face mask, it needs to
Yes.
close to
Yeah,
your
it has to
skin.
be airtight.
Yeah, it needs to
Yeah.
be airtight. And they did some research and they found out that it is not as safe. And even if you have a small beard, let's say a 1 inch or something, even that is not as safe as without a beard.
Right. It's creating a gap. That makes
Yeah, but
little
on the other,
sense. I'm
It
just
does make
surprised we
sense.
don't have a solution like I'm thinking of what scuba divers have to wear, right? I mean, you can go scuba diving with a beard and you don't drown.
well, I know that, for example, in the airline industry, they had these gas masks that they need to put on,
Yeah.
when there's something happening. But now in the airline industry, they found out with research that they develop special masks who are safe. So maybe they just need to change the masks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. I learned something.
And it occurs to me, Leslie, this likely, I mean, how is that handled in hospitality? If you're requiring food service people that are handling the food that gets plated, right?
Yeah.
They have to be wearing gloves, right? I don't know if the Cert Safe program also requires masking nowadays in the kitchen, but
I don't think it does, but that's good to look into.
But isn't it that if you're working at let's say, a factory
yeah,
with, let's say, you need to be clean. Here in the Netherlands, you need to wear a mask above, let's say, to cover your
Yeah.
beard, a beard mask.
yeah, in a clean room, you want that,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Or-
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. They have
But that
those.
is,
And
yeah.
in fire resistant too, they have. Kind of
Well,
fun.
then you have the full body suits, right? Maybe
Totally,
that's what
yeah.
they have
But
to
you
do,
have to-
right? That you just have to wear, and those are even disposable, right? Like we've got the full body suits that they could wear for surgery, and then just throw it all away. But
Goodness.
yeah,
But now it's also changing with the hijab, that is changing. And I'm thinking, are also the medical masks changing because of this? That
yeah,
if you really need people to work in this environment, let's say, for example, the police department who needs more people, so they say we make a special hijab that is safe to wear. Why not in a hospital?
100%. They should.
Well, I don't know
I
if
think
they
we
should,
found
but-
something. Too bad none of like we could go out and design this.
well, I
So
don't know that
everyone
I would
who's
put my
listening-
money in that unless the robots are going to need these. But
I know.
In inclusive
Stop.
society,
Freaks
right,
me out.
I still think we're going to be designing the uniforms for robots, but I don't know what form that will take yet. But our industry's got to be on top of that.
it will be cute and easy. I
Well,
think,
then you don't have to
because-
worry about fit because
Yeah, it's just all gender neutral. It's just all one fit.
totally. Mhm.
Yeah.
We might not want gender neutral. We might want our robots to appear to have made a choice.
Yeah.
About this.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's deep.
Causes me anxiety.
Well, NAUMD.com to learn more about us, NAUMD.com/news for what we've been talking about, NAUMD.com/convention for our convention information /awards to hear about the awards. Pretty Business, what is it? Pretty Business?
Prettybusinessworld.com for
Prettybusinessworld.com.
articles about workwear 2 times a week.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for a wonderful nerding session on uniforms.
Always. Good time.
Bye bye.